6 months after the murder of rapper Tupac Shakur in Las Vegas, a case in which no arrests have yet been made, MTV News has obtained a 29-page document prepared by police in Compton, California, which reveals that only a few days after Shakur's murder last September 7th, Compton police had already learned the name of the man some local gang members believed to be responsible for the crime. This document, it must be emphasized, is based largely on the words of Compton police informants. It does not legally prove who killed Tupac, nor does it legally prove that his death was a gang murder. Proof is the job of the courts. However, the Compton police document does contain a startling account of the events that led up to Shakur's murder and a shot-by-shot account of the 5-day bloodbath his killing seems to have set off in Compton, a gang war that apparently left 3 men dead and 10 wounded. It also deals with a host of questions as to the identity of the man who allegedly shot Tupac Shakur.
This 29-page statement of probable cause offers some intriguing answers. It was written up by Compton police last September and was attached to a motion filed in February by Suge Knight's defense team as part of their attempt to overturn Knight's probation violation. Based largely on information provided to the Compton police by their gang informant, the statement, or affidavit, gives an unverified but considerably detailed account of gang-related activity in Compton before and after the shooting of Tupac Shakur.
According to the statement of probable cause, 5 days after Shakur was shot, an informant with special knowledge of the activities of the Bloods, identified in the statement as CRI, or Confidential Reliable Informant Number 3, gave police a sequence of events which suggested that the shooting in Vegas might have been the culmination of a beef that began here at the Lakewood Mall. The informant told Compton police that a man named Trevon Lane, an alleged death row affiliate also known as Trey, was at the mall's Foot Locker just behind me in July or August of last year when he was confronted by 7 or 8 members of the Southside Crips. A scuffle ensued, during which Lane's death row medallion was taken from him.
Fast forward to September 7th in Las Vegas, the night of the Tyson-Seldon fight at the MGM Grand. According to the affidavit, CRI number 3 told the Compton cops that moments after the bout, Trevon Lane was walking through the hotel as part of Death Row's entourage when he spotted a man later identified as Orlando Anderson, the same man, Lane thought, who'd taken his medallion at the Lakewood Mall 2 months ago. Lane pointed the man out to Shakur. Shakur confronted Anderson with the question, "You from the South?" an apparent reference to the Southside Crips. Melee ensued, captured on tape by MGM Grand surveillance cameras. Little more than an hour later, as a line of death row cars snaked its way to a party at Knight's Club 662, a white Cadillac with California license plates, according to one report, pulled off to the right of Shakur and Knight's vehicle. According to the affidavit, a passenger opened fire with a Glock 40 caliber handgun, grazing Knight and critically wounding Shakur, as members of the death row entourage watched from the cars behind Knight. In the affidavit, the informant is also said to have told Compton police Trevon Lane was heard at Club 662, declaring that the shooter was the same man who'd been in the melee at the MGM Grand, and that the shooter was, quote, Keefe D's nephew, unquote. According to police, Orlando Anderson is the nephew of the man known as Keefe D. Both are reputed by Compton police to be Southside Crips. Back in Compton on September 9th, the day, according to the affidavit, that another informant noticed a late-model white Cadillac being driven into a local auto shop by Orlando Anderson's cousin. 3 separate blood sects convened at Looters Park. The topic of discussion, according to the affidavit, the need to retaliate against the Southside Crips for the attack on Tupac Shakur. Compton police were told by their informant that 5 sites for drive-by shootings were chosen. 3 potential targets were singled out. At 2:58 that afternoon, at this location on East Alondra, one such man, whose name was mentioned to Las Vegas police as someone who might have been riding in the white Cadillac, was shot in the back. The war was on. 2 days later, at 9:05 on the morning of September 11th, Southside Crip Bobby Finch was gunned down on South Mayo. The next day, Vegas police told Compton cops that they'd received calls that Finch had been riding in the white Cadillac. By early morning on the 14th, 5 more people had been shot in what Compton police regard as related assaults. Meanwhile, 3 Bloods were fired on and wounded in 2 separate shootings. On September 13th, the day Tupac Shakur died, 2 more Bloods were shot and killed by an assailant who fled on foot. As the gang war raged, police in Compton and Las Vegas continued to receive unsubstantiated tips that Tupac Shakur had been shot by Keefe D's nephew, or Baby Lane, aliases, as it turned out, for Orlando Anderson. On the 13th, the affidavit states, one reputed member of the Bloods identified the man who shot him in Compton 2 days earlier as Orlando Anderson. On the 20th, an eyewitness fingered Anderson as the trigger man in an April 1996 homicide. Around that same time, the affidavit states, an informant told one police officer that Anderson had been spotted with a .40 caliber Glock handgun, a potentially significant tip, since it hadn't been yet revealed publicly that a .40 caliber Glock had been used in the attack on Shakur.
On October 2nd, as part of a gang sweep, Compton police arrested Anderson in connection with that April 1996 homicide, but the DA's office declined to press charges at that time and asked the cops to gather more evidence. Compton police told MTV News that Anderson remains the prime suspect in the April 1996 homicide, and charges are expected to be formally filed imminently. As for Anderson's attorney, he declined to comment on this and any other allegations contained in the affidavit, and says that he's not been informed that his client remains the prime suspect in that April 1996 homicide. He has previously denied that Anderson was in any way involved with the killing of Shakur. While testifying under oath here at Suge Knight's probation hearing, Orlando Anderson invoked the Fifth Amendment when asked if he was a member of the Crips and denied that Knight had assaulted him. Vegas police questioned Anderson briefly back in October, at which point a Vegas cop was quoted as saying Anderson was not a suspect in Shakur's murder. 4 months later, however, Vegas Sergeant Kevin Manning told the Los Angeles Times that Anderson was indeed a suspect in Shakur's killing, but that his department lacked hard evidence against him. Vegas cops say that since the night of the shooting, they've been unable to speak with Trevon Lane, who the affidavit asserts was involved with a scuffle with Anderson at the Lakewood Mall, pointed Anderson out to Shakur at the MGM Grand, and was heard at Club 662 hours after the shooting, IDing Anderson as the shooter. Efforts by MTV News to speak with Trevon Lane were unsuccessful.